We're here, buddy. Long time coming. The time has finally come.
Absolutely. Mr. Melvin Seals, 18 years, the longest running keyboard player with Jerry Garcia Band. Could be a nicer guy. I've been super blessed to work with him doing Jerry's birthday band. Also, he plays in my band, O'Teal and Friends. And
Home for the holidays.
yeah. I mean, you came to one of those too.
I came to I'll tell you, that was a night. I had a stand-up show in Hartford, Connecticut, and I literally told them, I'm like, pay me before. I'm going to have my car running. I got to get out of here. And I drove from Hartford to Portchester, record time. And I got there for the end of the first set, all of the second set. And it was just a beautiful, you guys did Positively 4th Street, which I think is one of the most incredibly lyrically great ways to say, like, you know, a middle finger to someone who you don't really, you know, like so much. And to hear you guys play that, I was bawling my eyes out. And Jerry's daughter walked by and saw me and gave me a giant hug. And then she danced with my wife. And it was a good night. But listening to Melvin and just how his story of like where he came from and where he went with Jerry and with the guys and some of the, you know, experiences that he dealt with on the road, you know, heading into small towns for festivals and being scared because of color. And it's interesting.
Yeah. I definitely learned a bunch of things that I didn't know for all the time that I've spent with him, which is one of the things that's so great about having a podcast like this. Like you can talk with someone long form and man, to learn things about him and about Jerry that I had no idea about was really cool. So I'm looking forward to everybody getting a chance to hear all of that.
Yeah, I think we're all this is the one thing that we can be happy about with quarantine is that everyone's home. So we can talk to anybody we want. But we hope that you guys enjoy episode 1, and we've got a lot of amazing episodes coming up. So thank you for being a part of Comes the Time podcast. It's an honor to bring this to you with my pal O'Teal. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Comes the time when the blind man takes your hand, says, don't you see?
Hey, I'm O'Teal.
Hey, I'm Mike.
And welcome to the Come to Time podcast.
And today on the podcast, we are honored to have our guest, the one and only Melvin Seals. Hey, bud.
Hi, how's it going there?
Good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much for, it's an honor to have you here.
All right. Yeah.
For real. Yeah, we, Lord knows we have so much we want to ask you, but I really wanted to talk with you about your experiences. Like I was saying to you before, you know, since the murder of George Floyd and all these protests have broke out, you know, we talk a lot about it on my Instagram and sometimes get into these big long fights and stuff. But a lot of people, a lot of our fans from the jam band community, Deadheads and Allman Brothers Heads, they reached out to me going, you know, like, I don't know about this stuff. I don't know. I'm like, I bet you know somebody black. Just like talk to them. You know what I mean? Like, ask them what they've been through, especially.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how we do it.
Older, you know. You had all those years with Jerry, you know, 18 years. And and I know because I'm black and you're black. You've been through something, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's it, you know. So I really want to talk more about your life. Like, you're originally from San Francisco, right?
I was born in Berkeley, California, which is just over the bay, across the bay, but pretty much raised in San Francisco.
Right in the
I've
city?
been in San Francisco in the heart of the city.
Wow.
From the age, I think, 4 or 5.
Okay.
And I've been here ever since.
I get to travel doing stand-up quite a bit, and one of my favorite clubs in the whole world is the Punchline. Which I've done a couple of times, and it feels special going back to San Fran and where all the music started that I love so much, and going over to Terrapin Crossroads and visiting Phil and Graham and all those guys. So
it's
must
a great
be pretty
place.
Wild growing up there.
Oh yeah. It's And it's still wild. San Francisco is changing every day. It is not the same. Even where I live, going down 3rd Street, it's like, I don't recognize it anymore. You know, they have the ballpark, they have the AT&T, and now the Warriors just moved over here, and it's just changing, you know.
Yeah. When I would go visit that area where the Punchline was, which I can't remember the name of that neighborhood, but it's all Google employees now, I believe, right?
Now, yes.
And it's, I mean, like, you go to restaurants and it's almost like the waiters and waitresses and servers are almost like shell-shocked, or they have PTSD from all the jerks they have to serve. You know, you go in as a nice, normal person and they're like, all right, I'm sorry. And I'm like, why? No, we're good. It's cool. I'm a comic. I'm poor. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Definitely has a lot of magic, though, that whole area.
Yeah. I don't know if much is coming out of there now, though, but yeah. Things have changed.
I know when you started out, you were in the church. Was was your dad in the church, like minister or something like that, or you just were heavy church goers?
No, my dad was, he was the church clerk and secretary. So he did the bulletin and all that. He was a pianist of one of the choir, and he was the choir director of the senior choir. This is going way back, you know. And so there was a piano in our house because he played piano. Not very well, churchy, you know, this old church. But there was a piano in the house. So that, you know, gave me a bit of an edge when the music scene hit me. Like, whoa, you know, piano, we got one here. And, you know, and when it hit, I wanted to play. So I had something to work with. But our parents were from the South and very strict parents. And they go to church, you go to church. I'm out there 3 nights a week while he's doing the bulletin board, rehearsing the choir. I had to go as a young kid, you know, it was church, and they did not believe in secular music, as my father would call it, with boogie woogie back then. That's what he called it. Because, you know, when I start learning to play and make some chords, now I'm listening to radio stations and I'm hearing a song. Oh, I want to learn that. And so, you know, besides the church, trying to pick up secular songs, and then my father and my mother they didn't like that. So they would come and tell me, you know, my middle name is Dwayne. Dwayne, it's time to give the piano a rest. It needs a rest now. I never understood that. But they were tired of what I was trying to play, because it was not church. I was trying to learn Motown stuff. I was listening to Motown, and you hear this song and the great or organ solo or piano solo that you heard, and wow, and you want to learn it. And they didn't like none of that, you know. Wow. So it was very strict for me. I was not able to go out and see bands. I had to listen radio very low, and when they wasn't kind of around, and play that stuff when they wasn't kind of around, you know. So it's kind of hard for me trying to branch out, but, you know, I managed to do it.
You sure did. What part of the South were they from?
Louisiana, Homer, Louisiana, Shreveport, and Minden, Louisiana.
Louisiana's magic.
Yeah.
I love New Orleans, and I'm from DC, but I lived in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee for 35 years. You know.
Oh wow!
And it just, you get that marinade, you know. So I'm sure
it's a
they
thick
had
place. Yeah.
Do you remember what age they came to California? Like, did they experience some terrible?
Well, like I said, I was born in Berkeley. I'm trying to do the math. I'm not good at doing the math. I'm 66 years old, and I was in San Francisco 4 to 5 years. So going back, I was born in Berkeley, California, and there you have it.
Is that 44, 54, 1954? I can't do the math.
Yeah. I need a calculator.
Something like that. Yeah. We're all a little fried. I
Yeah.
think we've all spent too much time with Jerry in one way or the other to do math like that. Do you, Melvin, do you remember when you were like able to first go to live shows, and when you were first able to, you said your folks weren't into letting you go to concerts. When you first had that live music experience outside the church setting, did it just blow you away? Did you like know at that point that live performance was something you wanted to be a part of?
Well, I knew it from listening to American Bandstand, I think Midnight Special and Shindig. I think I might be saying that right. All these old TV shows that would have the entertainers come on. And I would see certain entertainers, black and white bands, and just certain songs were magical to me. It's like, wow, I'm looking at these guys. But it was one guy that I thought I can pattern after, because he was in front of me. He came out flat out the church and was doing what I wanted to do. I've heard a lot of great organists, Jimmy Smith, Shirley Scott, and Johnny Hammond, and they're playing fast, they're all over the place. And it's okay, that's a little tough for me. But there was this one guy that I've learned to have met and learned to know, and that was Billy Preston. And I always give him his credit, because he came straight out of the church, playing for James Cleveland, Claire Ward singers, and all the Roberta Martin. He played with all those people. And I was able to follow his pattern, his chords, what he was doing when he did work with Ray Charles, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Aretha Franklin. I mean, it just goes on. Mm. And so he had a rock gospel style. And that's the style that I entertain today. It's kind of a rock gospel-ish, very gospel, but I'm able to integrate the rock, the blues, the shuffles, the New Orleans. And I've learned enough a little bit. I'm a mixture of a lot of stuff. And I just put it together, but gospel's in the focus.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Billy Preston, I mean, what an unbelievable trailblazer to follow, too.
Well, I love that story when you actually got to play with him. It didn't go quite how you...
Good. But you know what? And from knowing Billy Preston's sisters, Rodina Preston, they both passed. And Rodina was with James Cleveland, the Gospel Music Workshop, if you knew anything about that. So they were huge in the gospel scene. And Billy would show up, and whenever another organist, Twinkie Clark for one, caught the audience, she was doing something, how they say, play Twinkie, and Billy was in the room, Rodina would say he'd get up and walk out. He didn't like that. He had a very jealous spirit. And so the story that he's talking about, I mean, he's been my hero all my life. And when I had a chance to meet him face to face, it was in Europe. I was with Clarence Clement. And we went to Europe, and Billy was over there for some reason. I don't know. And so when Billy found we were coming down, they said, "Oh, Billy's going to come down." Boy, that whole evening with me, Billy, he's going to play with me. And so, I know his stuff. Now I can play Billy Preston. Then I was able to play. I was no longer a student. I could pretty much do what he was doing, But he had to do it first. And say, "Oh, okay, let me learn that." So he was, the writer.
Respectful.
Yeah. And so when he came in, we were with sound check. He came in, and we were doing something. So I started playing Billy Preston, what I think he would have done. He didn't like that. But I didn't realize it at the time, he didn't like that. And so he came in, I was going to get off the organ, let him play organ, and he just wanted to play the words of piano. He didn't want to play the organ after that. But where it came down was after sound check, we have, lunch or dinner before the show. And so in the dinner room, I went and sat right next to him. And I was going to tell him, I did tell him, it's just hey, thank you for the music lessons all these years. And I went back into stuff that he probably don't think most people knew he did. I know the gospel side. So I went back and I said, name songs and albums that you played on in churches and conventions that he may not even remember much of. And when I got through with, saying and giving my spirit and just, thank you, gosh, I just, his word for word, and I kid you not, I'm not changing. He said to me, I thought that shit sounds familiar. That's what he said.
Jeez.
And it's like,
wow. Nice to meet
I
you,
didn't know
sir.
what it felt after I poured my heart out to him. For him to say that,
oh my God,
and get up and walk off.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But what I found out, and I'm not going to get into his garbage, but I was sitting next to the bass player that he had interest in. What me?
Oh.
He is
Bad
the bass player he had eyes on. So.
It's the art of timing, Melvin.
Yeah.
It would have been different.
It would have been different. But just to give you a little bit more briefing of the night. So, I'm just want to know something about the man that I've studied all my years. Although I walk in the room, there were a lot of rooms. I walk in the room, was just to watch him and check out his demeanor. I walk in the room, and he would soon walk out that room. He did not like me. So when we performed that night on stage, I don't know how this happened, but the audience in Europe knew I played Jerry Garcia. And so there was a little drama about this is Melvin Seals. They knew this. And, of course, Billy Preston is Billy Preston. We got into an organ battle. And he played a lick, I played his lick.
Whoa.
He played a lick, I played his lick. That went bad. And the audience gave me the bigger roar because, like, Melvin's hanging with Billy Preston, but I knew his stuff. And so after so much of that, we were doing, I think, Get Back to First Blown, or Jeremiah's Before, whatever that song is called. After so much of that, he just got up and started dancing. No, I couldn't do that. He was doing some stuff like, whoa.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
Holy shit. And from the rest of the night, he wouldn't talk to me. It's like, I just, bad moment. And it is what it is.
Can you hear that anywhere? That organ battle? Is that like out there?
I have a DAT of it.
Wow.
I have a DAT. I don't have a DAT player anymore, but I have it on DAT.
I would love to hear
performance. That. Yes. I have
that. I can find a DAT player.
Yeah. For that, I'll go buy one. I mean,
and you'll hear us doing what we're doing. And then, it's not video. It's just, it might be video. I don't remember. But I have it because I used to listen back to it. And then he got up and he stopped playing. He's dancing. And he lost me there because, boy, could he dance.
I think you won.
He was stepping. He was doing some stepping.
But I'm going to tell you one other thing. Then I'll get off and let you guys talk. Kind of almost the same experience with Jimmy Smith. I never met Jimmy Smith, but Merle Saunders and I was very good friends. And somewhere a long time before he passed, they had a Jimmy Smith Day honoring him in LA, Southern California. Mm-hmm. And so Merle called me because we were buddies and said, guess who I'm sitting with? And I'm sitting with Jimmy. Oh, man, let me talk with him. And so he put me on it. Yeah. I said, Jimmy, man, you are the best. I just said a few words, and he said, point blank, word for word, tell me something I don't know.
What?
That's what he said. Tell me something I don't know. I said, oh, is Merle still there? I didn't know what to say behind that.
Why?
I don't carry that in me. I don't understand that because you're great, but I don't know anything about that.
No, I've heard he's a real mean cat, and I think there's some bitterness. And I've run it, man, meeting your heroes, it's so brutal sometimes.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the running theme for me, at least. Like when they're bitter that, how come I didn't get as famous as this guy and that guy?
Yeah.
I'm his hero.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, to me, God or the universe picks those things. And, I mean, there's a long line of jazz guys that are geniuses that never got the whatever, so I don't, I'm like, that's not me picking it, but but my two biggest ones were just great angel race cats. They're just like you, Melvin. They're Wayne Shorter and Elvin Jones. And they were just angels, man. So humble to be so iconic. And so that made up for the other ones, And
okay.
Newcomers that come along that think there's something. I'm like, hey, man. You didn't play all those years with Coltrane. Like,
yeah.
He was nice. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Amazing.
It is a special feeling when someone who you appreciate so much, from a comedy standpoint too, when you're on stage and you're telling a joke and you see a comedian who you grew up listening to laughing at one of your jokes. And then I've had the privilege of going on the road with, like Dave Attell and some of my other heroes, and to see them in the sidelines laughing at a joke with the crowd. It's like, oh boy, like this is just me and that person in the room. It's like the audience goes away. So it is a beautiful feeling. But you and Jerry must have, and I don't want to do what was it like playing with Jerry? But you guys had that San Francisco, that connection, like right away. That was something, an unspoken bond, probably before even the music.
Yeah. It was interesting. One quick story. I was playing with Elvin Bishop, and I've been with him for 6 years. And we did a gig in San Diego, and Jerry Garcia Band, which I think Merle was the keyboard player. I never saw them, but they were the headliners. They never came out the dressing room. I never saw Jerry or nothing. But it was very interesting. Jerry, when I was playing with Elvin Bishop, Jerry asked who I was. Never knew this, never saw him. Didn't really know who Jerry was because I wasn't a deadhead. I didn't know nothing about any of that. Remember, I'm fresh out of the church, and I've only played with 2 or 3 bands professionally, and kind of went to Broadway shows. I did a lot of Broadway shows, and doing jazz and sitting in as a jazz musician with Evolution of the Blues. If you ever heard of that long-running show in San Francisco with John Hendricks and Oscar Brown Jr. and all these people came through there. And that's how I got with Elvin Bishop. He came and saw the show, and he was going out doing Raising Hell album and something like that, and he wanted me on organ. So I got with him, and so this particular concert happened in San Diego, and I never saw Jerry, never saw none of the music because they never came out the dressing room, and we left after we played. When I got with Jerry, the first day, if you want to call it, I guess it was an audition, and when I got in the room with him, He told me, he asked who I was, and he told me the day about that show in San Diego. I said, wow, I never knew. To me, it was such an honor for him to pay attention to little me and what I was doing and ask who I was. And it's like, wow, that was huge for me. But, there's a long story of how I got with Jerry. I didn't know who Jerry was. When they walked in the room, I couldn't point him out because all I knew about the Grateful Dead is being in San Francisco, and one of them have a birthday or they do something large. Today's Mickey Hart's birthday, as whatever age he is, and from the Grateful Dead. Or when they perform New Year's shows at the Oakland Auditorium in that area, you hear the people that live there, how they were displeased with what was going on. The tents, the hippies all around. So you heard that stuff. The Grateful Dead is tied to that. Yeah. Outside of that, I couldn't name one member of the Grateful Dead and who they are and what they do. And that was even up to the day that I went to play with Jerry. I didn't know who Jerry Garcia was. And so there's another long story, and I don't think we have time where you want to go into that, but it was.
We got plenty of time.
Dude, you could. I'll just listen for hours.
Well, okay, I'm going to tell you this quick story to tie some ends. Remember, I'm fresh out of the church. I play with Elvin Bishop now and did some Broadway shows. I played with a guy named Gideon in Power, which you may not know who he is, but his manager was Wally Amos, famous Amos Cookie. That was before he developed that cookie. He was a road manager.
I love famous Amos cookies.
Yeah, and Wally Amos is his name. Yeah, and he had a deal with Bell Records, and I was on Bell Records, Gideon Power. You'll never know who he is, but famous Amos, because I came out of that. Anyhow, that was the very first professional thing I ever did. We flew to Phoenix to do a gig. I mean, they bought my airline ticket. I flew to. That's the first professional thing I did outside the church. It's like, wow. And I may have got $300, but it wasn't. It's like, I flew to do a gig. That was huge for me. But, going back to Jerry. So I was doing work with Maria Mordaller, Midnight at the Oasis, and her boyfriend was John Kahn, as you know, Jerry, all of that. And so when Maria, bass player, which I think his name was Amos Garrett, I believe is the name, good bass player, different style, couldn't make a gig, John would sit in. So John was, paying attention to me and did quite a few gigs before he came and said to me, hey, man, would you be interested in playing another band? And as a musician, sure, yeah, man, I'd love to. I don't know what band. And I get a phone call one day, say, hey, we want to probably get some gigs next week and want to come up and see if we can put some songs together. These guys are very not telling you much about anything. And then sure, yeah, man, cool. Because I'm not doing a whole lot. And so I went up and he called me one day, we're going to get together Friday. And I go up to what they call Front Street, which is where their studio was. Yep. And trying to be a musician, being on time, good impression, I'm one of the first guys there. So the night guy, the guy that stays around the place and watches the place, let me in. He knew I was coming. I knew nothing about the Grateful Dead. You have to understand this. So when I walked in, I saw backdrops. Skeleton with a violin in his hand, a skeleton with a rose. They were all skeletons. And I'm looking up. I know nothing about the Grateful Dead. I'm looking up at all this.
Straight out of the church.
And I saw some $100 bill rolled up, sitting on a table. I don't know what this is all about, but I'm looking at that $100 bill. I just saw stuff, big, nice studio and stuff. It's like, I didn't know what was going on. And I actually was a little afraid. Why was I afraid? Because it wasn't too long Jim Jones had that massacre. So here's some religious cult that Jim Jones, what he did, his story. And here I'm walking into and seeing this cult thing I know nothing about. You got to remember this, out of the church.
Like, oh, hell no.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know Front Street meant purgatory. Yeah. What a weird thing to see. Yeah, that's intimidating right off the bat.
Yeah, it was very intimidating. But okay, then they all kind of showed up together. Now it was Steve Parrish, John Kahn, Jerry Garcia, and Jimmy Warren on piano. Warren, I think his name, and a couple other people. They all showed up at one time. And so how you meet, hi, I'm Melvin, and they all go down the road and tell you their names. That's short-term memory. You don't get that. I couldn't even repeat their names after they said it. Hey, John. Hey, I'm Jerry. Hey, I'm Jimmy. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Hey, how you guys doing? I don't remember any of that, Yeah. So the guys, which was Jerry at the time, said, hey, let's go play some music. We went into the room and sat and played 3 songs. I think it was How Sweet It Is, The Harder They Come, Second Hand Emotion. It was Motown stuff because they figured I would probably know that stuff. And then after 3 songs, they all disappeared in the individual rooms for, I'm telling the truth, 10, 15 minutes, I don't know. And I go back in the lobby because I don't have a room to go into. So, and then they all come out and, yeah, man, yeah, it was great. Zipping and, oh, this is great, and yeah. And so the guy on guitar, who was Jerry, I'm so embarrassed, says, no, I said to Jerry, I said, man, you play some pretty good guitar. And they all laughed because they knew I didn't have a clue who he was. And she said, oh, you play some pretty good organ. And we just laughed and ha, 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 and all that. And that was the beginning of the thing. But, for 2 or 3 years, I had a piano and organ. I would not take it out because I was scared of them. I was just scared of what I didn't know. But what I've learned to find out, they were some of the most lovingest people on the face of this planet. And the fans are too. The fans they call dead. It's like, I would rather not be with anybody but them now, And since Jerry, that's pretty much all the music I've been playing. I'm capable of doing a lot of other stuff, but that's where I've been making my living.
Yeah. Well, what an unbelievable story. And just to, I was in the audience right behind the soundboard at Home for the Holidays at the Capitol Theater that you guys
Oh, wow,
did.
yeah,
And I
right.
was a guest of O'Teal's, and, you know, you guys
Yeah.
did Positively 4th Street, and I was bawling my eyes out. I mean, it was just to see everybody up there just you sound wonderful, and it's all the fans. I don't ever speak for anybody, but I think I could speak for the fans right now when I say thank you for everything that you, I mean, it's been wonderful to listen. And you know, Jerry seems to always, listening to the Grateful Dead is like listening to 5, 10, 15 different bands, because it's all whether it's jug band or bluegrass, or he's playing children's songs with David Grissman. You know, and he introduced us to a lot of different musicians, and then we go down those rabbit holes and we find out about the Billy Prestons and I mean Howard Wales before, and Merle and you, and I mean just unbelievable how grateful, no pun intended, I am that I found this music, because it led me to a lifetime of musical channels that I'm just going to investigate the rest of my life. So,
yeah. I just found Shirley Scott from just going back over old interviews with you, Melvin, for this. How did I miss Shirley Scott? And more, I'm thinking, how did my dad miss Shirley Scott? My dad didn't miss anything. Of course, if I call him, he'd be like, I played you Shirley Scott. You the mother. You know, I mean, wow. Just like I was grooving so hard to that night. So even for me, someone who I like to think I've done some research, you know, even if it was just getting it from my dad, I just got lucky. You know, still finding those nuggets because of you, and, you know, rabbit holes, and
we're all links in a chain, you know. And it's especially during this quarantine, and during, I hope that you've been safe and healthy, and I hope everybody's been good on your end.
I came off a tour in March. I was out for a month. I think my first date was the 3rd, and I went to the 10th. And some dates were falling out only because the ordinance was now you couldn't have a gathering. First it started at 1,000 and went down to 500 and went down to 250. It was going down. And we packed more than that. And so we were losing shows until my last show. But I had a packed place in Chicago. I mean, not Chicago, Chicago too, but I packed at the Capitol Theater. The people came out, and I think it was like around the 8th of March or something like that, and it was packed. And then we went to Chicago and had a really decent house, and that was their last show, and that's when I realized I have to go home. Stuff was changing while we were out there on a tour bus and all of that. So I came home around the 11th to 12th of March, and I've been home ever since. No gigs. Had a lot of gigs booked, but they all kind of went away. You know, and I understand. I got it. And it took a minute to figure out what should I be doing. You know, for a while I just became a couch potato, watching TV and eating and just doing nothing because I didn't understand. Well, what just happened? I knew it happened, but this is San Francisco. This is America. You know, what is this? And so there are gigs on the calendar that I think I'm going to have to pass on because it's still not safe. It's just not safe.
You know, you think about travel. The three of us all travel and perform in front of large groups for a living. And, you know, you think about, I mean, March 11th was my last show in New York City. O'Teal, yours was, I think, the 12th or something, right?
March 10th.
March 10th.
I think it was.
Yeah, at MSG. Okay. And then it's like 2 weeks later, reality changes, and it's like, I can't get on a plane. I can't be in hotels, in and out of Ubers, in and out of, you know, like elevators and all of this, and then standing in front of a crowd where everyone's exhaling at you.
Right.
It kind of changes everything, you know, like, and for a minute I enjoyed oh, wow, I don't have to live in an airport anymore for a little while. You know, did you enjoy traveling? Did you enjoy being on the road? Was that something that you miss? I mean, playing, of course, yes, we miss, but the getting there part?
it was my therapy. I found when I came off the road, I was sitting a lot, and I was, you were sitting a lot and you're eating a lot of junky food, and I felt my health. It's like my legs are hurting. Things are hurting that wasn't hurting when I'm traveling, because I work a lot. In and out of airports, up and on stage, on and off the tour bus, and so that's my exercise, keeping me together. When that went away, for a period of time here, I was like sinking. And so one of the things I did, I bought a bike, low impact, and I started riding my bike around town and enjoying that. And that kind of like, okay, and I have a recording studio here, but I didn't want nothing to do with music for a while. Until now I'm out of that, I guess you would say, a funk that came over me, and I didn't know. I was okay, but it's like I'm out of my element. I'm sitting here now and nothing I think to do. And I finally got out of that. Now I'm in the studio writing music and putting some things that I've written before that I never completed them correctly. I'm all over it now and about to work on some new music and start recording some stuff. But I'm starting to accept. I have a tour schedule in October that I don't think is going to happen. I mean, for a month. It's a month-long tour. And then I had some work with Zero right after that, about 2 weeks with Zero in the New York area, that I think is all going to go away.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it now. Now I got it, and I have a direction. I'm stay on the music, stay focused, exercise. I have a little boat here in San Francisco where I go out on the water and have a good time, go fishing. So now I got off the couch. That's what I needed to do, because I was going in the wrong direction.
That biking keeps me up, man. I love it.
Yeah. I miss performing, but I understand now. So I am also trying to do something virtual now. I don't have a good, clear understanding how it's being done, but I'm watching bands play from their homes and syncing the music up. But that's a little bit above my pay grade, but there are people that know how to put that together. So I'm trying to now get something going that I can give to the people and share music with, I've worked up a couple tunes that I'm going to put out there on video release for free, playing the organ just by myself. That's some type of material that the fans will have no idea I can do. One is an Italian song called Pavani. If you've ever heard the song Pavani. Wow. It's a beautiful piece, and I'm going to play the whole orchestration on the organ. I have a different kind of organ at my house that plays orchestration. And so I worked up the song it's very pretty and I think it's encouraging. It's like they hear this and it's like their mouth is going to drop because they don't know this side of me. Right. When I practice, I'm always practicing classical and opera stuff. That's what challenges me. And
I used to hear you playing that at Soundcheck. And with O'Teal and Friends, and I was like, because Alfreda sings opera also. And I was like, man, why don't you guys just like do an opera segment? Just like completely freak people out, Or I would hear you playing. One time you were playing this thing. It was obviously one of your tunes. I didn't know it. I was grooving to it. Yeah. And then Jay Lane, I think he knew the tune and had been trying to get you to play it at some point. He starts playing. And he gets up, he's like, Melvin, come on, why don't we do that? I was like, yeah, why don't we do that? You were like, well, let me work out the,
Well, that's what I'm saying. That was one of the songs I wrote in some hits and a groove line and a few parts, but it was never completed. Jay had heard me play it before, and he identified with it right away, but it needed to go somewhere, and I hadn't finished it. That's what I'm doing now. It's going somewhere now. So that's what I've been doing, completing songs that I have written that great ideas, but never took the time to perfect it. And those are some of the things that I'm working on currently.
That's pretty cool about, I guess, if there is any silver lining to this being forced to sit at home thing, is you have to go through your funk that I think we all did. There were people asking if we wanted to do comedy shows on Zoom, and I'm like, no, don't ever. No, I don't want to do crowd work about someone's couch or their cat. Like, I need that instant interaction, And but it also made me think about, okay, when I do come back and I do get behind the microphone, like I've got a lot of life that I want to tell. You know, I've got a lot of stories that I've on the phone with Oteil talking, and he's like, I really think that maybe that's something that you should talk about because it can help people, and it can do just like you're working on things that maybe you haven't, you know, that you knew in the back of your head. Like one day I'd really like to finish that. Like, I guess maybe that's one good thing about this is it's given all of us a kind of a forced self kind of reflection or introspection or whatever. And it's a scary time though. That's for sure.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But I've been safe. I've been okay. And I'm social distancing. I wear my mask when I go out. And I don't want to go out for groceries or to ride my bike or when I go out on the water. That's it. Yeah. You know, I'm not even visiting my family right now. No, just staying in. Yeah.
Good. You know, Melvin, I remember when we talked initially, you were telling me the story that you kind of related just now about, you know, at first I was just sitting on the couch watching TV and trying to figure out what's going on, you know.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to get back to that, you know, as you watch this movement like rise up and all these protests and stuff, did it remind you of stuff out of the past? Because, you know, we don't, like a lot of other Black people that I play with, it's kind of an unspoken thing. Like, I don't need to ask you, hey, Melvin, you know, what racism did you experience when you were a kid? Like, I know if you were to tell me, I would be able to identify with something that someone I knew, my relative, mom, dad.
Right.
So did you have that sense like, wow, we're still dealing with the same crap, you know?
Well, you know, I knew I was obviously not in the marches and stuff that was going on back in Martin Luther King, but because my parents came out of Homer and Minden, they were still some burning of the crosses. We would go back to Louisiana for him to visit his mother and his people, and he had land back there. And there was still some burning of the crosses. I knew that. I knew some of the danger things that was going on back there, folks missing and coming up dead and whatever. It didn't hit me much as a kid, but, you know, my parents, grandparents, don't go down that road at night or don't, you know, certain things you don't do. Then as you grow up, you become more aware of what was going on. You know, and it's funny, I can bring that into a modern day, what recently happened to me, even with Jerry Garcia. You know, I kind of rode with Jerry. When we flew, I was in the Learjets, I'm with him, and in limousines and things like that, I'm in the car with Jerry. I was like, he just, you know, wanted me with him. And a number of times, you know, I have my bags and my stuff, and I'm just slow. They get out the limousine, sound check, you know, they drive right up to the door of the theater or something like that. And all the rest of them hopped off and they went on in, and I'm still grabbing my stuff. And, you know, and so I get out the same car Jerry Garcia got out. But when I walk up to because they probably shut the door, and when I walk up to the door, can I help you? Like, can you help me? Didn't you just, you know what I mean? And he said, well, who is this guy, Steve? And Steve would like really bust their chops, you know. Steve would bust their chops every time. Yeah, Steve Ferris. I just got out the car with these people. Didn't you see this? What would I be doing at this huge theater or whatever it was at sound check? And I have nothing to do with this. Doesn't even seem right. But, you know, I just tucked it on and said, okay. But some of the things that I have been profiled, and thank God it didn't turn anything. There are a few gigs that, you know, I did gigs at there were hotels that had a music room. And, you know, once you get all your gear and put it back in your van or whatever you know, I drove around front because I wanted my car around in front of the lobby so people can, if somebody's trying to break in because I got organs and piano, it's right in front. I remember one particular time it was raining really bad, so I sat there for a while just to let down a little bit before I went to my room. It might have been 20, 25 minutes. I'm sitting there, you know, everything's all out. Then finally I get out of my car. I didn't even see this guy, young cop. And so I walked into my room, and I heard a voice say, hey, buddy. You know, I looked around. Hey, buddy, it was a cop. It was a young cop. And I'm trying to remember what he said. It was, what are you doing here? Something like that. And at that time, like it was raining and I was coming from the front. There were a lot of hippies there, but they wasn't out at that point. And I said, I just performed here. What do you mean? And he said, talk to you like you're dumb sometime. Well, I just performed right around the corner. All these people came out this performance. Got any ID? You know, and I just saw the devil in his eye. I saw this could be trouble. And I have a bag. So I said, listen, my wallet's in my bag. I'm putting my bag on the ground to get my wallet. Make sure he understood. You know, and I gave him my wallet. No reason for none of this. You know, he never even told me why he did it. And then he looked, and then at that point, some fans were coming out. That's Melvin. Hey, Melvin. You know, then he realized I was the guy that I told him I was. And then more people were coming out, and I guess he started getting scared. Well, you're good to go. And it's like, wow, that just messed with me that whole night, you know. Of now when you see, you know, what just recently happened, what could have happened. I've been stopped many times driving, you know. And the scary thing to me, and O'Toole, you may not have to deal with, a lot of time I'm driving myself. A lot of these festivals are up over the hill. You go through little towns.
Yeah, middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm big and black. And everybody don't know who you are, especially in those little towns. Mm-hmm. So I always had this fear, oh my God, I don't want to get stopped, or I don't just, you know, I don't want anything to happen because it's not safe. If an episode was, you know, so I this time cops got behind me. I drive in the speed limit. I'm not going over the line. I'm doing everything right. Because you don't know what can happen and what's in their heart. So there are situations that are still out there, you know, that can be extremely dangerous. That, and the more this happened, you know, it's like, oh gosh, I think about episodes of things that could have went down, and it's like, in some ways it's not cool, but how do you get around that? You know, a lot of these festivals are way off the beaten path, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I had my band, the Peacemakers, we used to travel in this old airport shuttle, you know, and the brakes were not made for Colorado, for instance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dead of winter, you know.
Not many are.
Yeah, you're supposed to just go around the airport. So I finally got this old Bluebird bus that had those brakes that like air brakes or whatever they're called. Yeah. They were heavier, you know. They were like, I could go down the passes in Durango or whatever.
Right.
Be scared to death, but it was an old church bus from some small town in Alabama, you know.
Oh, wow.
And they had a bus company. We ripped all the seats out, put bunks in the last 3-5 feet with storage, and it was kicked out on the inside, and the outside just looks like an old, been sitting in the woods, sun-bleached church bus, you know. And he said, well, you want us to repaint? You want us to take church bus? I was like, hell no. I said, all these festivals I play, you know, when you see, we're not going to like do the pranksters bus thing. Like, we're going low.
Low profile.
And I even saw some cops one time got mad at me because we pulled into summer camp, which is in Chillicothe, Illinois, I think. And we were riding up, and they knew we were a band because we got waved through. And I mean, it wasn't even, they weren't even trying to hide it. They were like, because they felt like we had done it on purpose, like we were trying to be covert, which I was, but it was just serendipitous. You know, I didn't like say paint church bus on it. I just said, don't take it off.
Right.
Many times, you know, we have weed in that bus.
Yeah.
Many times cops would come out and they just fade away, and I was like,
well, you know,
my stuff wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, my stuff was innocent. I never smoked weed. I don't smoke weed, and I don't drink. So they had any of those incidents of me being pulled over, stopped on the highway late at night, driving from a festival back to a hotel. I've been stopped many times for really no reason, that they just saw, you know, me and them black, and it's maybe 12, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. opportunity. You know, there's no smell alcohol, there's no weed smell, none of that to provoke anything.
Yeah.
The thing that's so heartbreaking too is that you're coming from or going to an event where everyone can be together and be peaceful and be happy and experience this great moment that's never going to happen again.
Right.
Together and watch you play, or Oteil watch you play, or who, you know, and you have to fear on your way there and on your way back. It's just so it's
but that's almost a universal law. Like if you walk in love, like real love will command a response of hate or elicit one. Like any spiritual leaders or
it's that
people
balance.
are supposed to be like heavy. Like if nobody ever tried to kill him, I feel a little like, you know, because all the great ones, they tried to kill him right up to the Dalai Lama or did kill him. You know what I mean? Like, so you know somebody's really walking in love, you know. Yeah. They're like completely nonviolent and totally loving, and then someone tries to pop him, you're like, you should listen to that guy. You know? But I love how you somehow didn't let bitterness or any of these experiences like prevent you from giving other people a chance, because when you said what you said about the Grateful Dead crowd, I felt that same thing. And I knew Deadheads from like first grade, but I didn't know about the Grateful Dead, or I just knew it was those people that wore the funny handmade clothes, and they were super sweet. And I was like, I grew up in the ghetto, and I was like, they had a perception of how white people were. And I was like, but there's these really sweet ones, you know, that are, you know, they're not all good, but they're not all bad. And
no, they're not.
I find it fascinating, like someone like you that came out of such a sheltered background from all of that stuff to, and then experiencing racism yourself. But still not holding it again, not closing yourself off, you know?
It's not in me. It's the religion in me. And it's just, I was not born and raised that way. It's not a part of me. And that's even like, I couldn't understand why some of my heroes, what they say, like, wow, I don't ever want to be like that. It's not there. I'm just.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean more of like instead you like more turn the other cheek type, more passive and love, instead of like a militant, more like kind of
just being a-holes?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, there's people that have road managers. I'm just putting it in our field. When you walk into the building, they won't even let people touch you. Get away, pushing you away. No, I want to greet a few people. Hi, how you doing? I want to put a smile on your face. Man, you look good today. Especially the ones that are crippled in a wheelchair. I'll go up and take a picture with, man, I want a picture with you. Something to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe what leaves the heart reaches the heart. And so I don't want to be a stiff ass and, you know, and you can't touch me, but then yet you come to see me play and you enjoy me. I want you to feel the love, you know, and so I'm not that guy that I don't have the words for, but you know what I'm trying to say.
You're not holding grudges against people that are trying to be bitter. I just think it's a bitterness, and I find it fascinating for parents that came out of these, you know, places in Louisiana where there's like cross burnings. Like my parents are New Yorkers.
Yeah.
You know, they were mad. They were like Black Panthers. Very educated, very, you know, love music. They definitely gave people, they weren't like all white people are bad. And, you know, they always told me, you got to take people one at a time. Black people too, because they'll screw you over. Like you don't judge any person like in a group. That was done to us, but they didn't experience cross burnings. Like, that's some next level stuff. And to still be like leading with, you know, not in hate then, or at least have some walls up. I mean, you can forgive anybody that's been through that for at least having some walls up, you know?
I don't know why. I hope it's not something wrong.
Well, I think it's the religion in you. Like you said, it's that's your.
But even so, Melvin, I mean, you tell stories about meeting your heroes and your heroes having, there's folks that have this kind of like, they lead with their ego, where you led with an openness and a humility and it's an honor to meet you. And I've been studying your music and it's made me a better player. And here's what I've learned and let's play. And
right.
So that is the same person that greets someone in a wheelchair and wants to make our night perfect. And that's that person that radiates from the stage all the way back at a week before Christmas at or whenever it was home for the holidays, where it was, you're you, and Oteil, you're you. And as a performer, the person you are, and you said, what leaves the heart reaches the heart. That's unbelievable. Yes. I mean, that's common sense. And that's the things that we talk about all the time, is just this whole, it's not everybody. And it's you take these singular events and these moments and these people, and you try to just find the love and find the purity and find the happiness and try to brighten their day instead of, and I think that's beautiful, man. I mean, I think if you have the music in you, and if you have the sense of, adventure, and we talked to Jerry's widow, MG, Mountain Girl.
Oh yeah. I know her.
And she said something about just being present and being available, which I thought was really neat. Being available to the moment, which is it's true, and it seems like you're there.
It led you out of a completely different, like, where you ended up. It's just beautiful, man. And I love that story when I saw an interview with you when you were saying that Jerry, and this just speaks to the sweetness of the whole crowd, family, band, everyone, but that they always made sure you had your own dressing room, because they knew you came out of the church and they didn't want you to have to be close to them doing drugs.
Oh, wow.
Jerry did not like to have me. They didn't want, most of all the musicians, they are similar in a lot of ways. And so they would be in a room before shows and shooting the breeze and doing what they do. And I was not like that. I never did. And I'm not ashamed to say, to this day, I have never smoked weed. I don't even know what it's like. Now, I eat edibles, don't get me wrong. I eat edibles, and I got CBD all over the place. And rub and gummy bears.
Oh, that's amazing. What leaves the edible reaches the edible, Melvin.
Joint or done any other drugs to my body. I don't know what it's like.
I don't consider those drugs. To me, drugs are made in a lab.
Okay.
And they're coming in a needle.
Cannabis comes out of the earth. The Bible even every good thing came out of the earth.
Well, you know what? And see, I had to learn that, because out of the church, I'm from an older church that's smoking. They talked about your body, a sacred temple, and anything that's harmful to the body was not, you know what I mean? How they would proceed it back then. So smoking and cigar and of course anything that was supposed, but then I had to learn through the Garcia, through the fans, that this is a plant. Like, you go pick some other plant for the healing of a body or whatever you choose to do with it. You're right. And you're right what you just said. But to me, it was like, no, you're smoking weed. I'm gonna tell you something that I've only told a few people. This is real. When I was in high school, and I wanted to play piano and organ, I wanted to be a professional musician so bad. I remember cutting one of my classes, and I knew how to pick the lock of the auditorium of the high school. They had a piano in there. So one of my classes, I picked the lock because I knew nothing was going on, and I didn't want to deal with that class. And I went in there, and they had a grand piano, and I'm playing this grand piano, and I'm looking out. Of course, there's nobody there. And I kind of made a vow with God. I said, and I kid you not, I said, Lord, if you let me be successful in this music business, I would never do part of what was considered the uglier things that the musicians do. Whatever they may be, I would not be a part. I would dedicate my life and give it back to you. So everything that came to me, I didn't hustle for. You got to hear this. It came to me. It was put right in front of me.
Wow.
And so I felt like to start smoking, I would break my vow and it's all over. I can't do it. Now that I know more about the plant, it's a plant, and I don't feel so bad about it, but I just never did it. So why at this point, what am I going to start doing it for? But I feel there's a covenant because he's kept up his, I played some large shows, been with some large people that I may not have been the best candidate to even do that. But I know where my source come from.
Yeah. Amen to that. I understand that. I hear what you're saying. And I had a chance to perform at Radio City Music Hall in February doing stand-up comedy, and there's no way in hell I was ready to be there, but I was opening I was an opening act for someone else. And, I walked into that place with tears in my eyes, and I did not take it lightly. And I thought, just like you said, there are people who were way more, but it was about me and my friendship with the people that I was performing with, that I got off stage and they were all standing on the side of the stage with their arms open, giving me a hug, saying congratulations. They knew how much it meant to me, and it's something that I'll never, and now it's been 5-6 months since I've even been on stage. So I hear what you're saying. And it's that thing of being open, and that's beautiful, man. That's really amazing. Keeping that humility throughout all of this is just so cool.
That's why you endure, and good things keep coming.
That's true.
Keeps coming. It just keeps coming.
Stay open, and you get hurt, and you're like, wow, but you keep giving the world a chance. You keep giving the day a chance. And I love that about you, man. That's what everybody loves it, and I think that's what when people, they can tell, they can feel it. They know why we're smiling.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not entertaining you, because I don't have it, but when we play together and then it gets, and then I start to feel that smile kind of like, it's like,
it's a thrill to see you guys play.
It's a gift, man.
Yeah, it's a gift, man. It's, I miss it. I love it, and we'll be back, because we're coming back, but just,
I have to ask, Melvin, coming from the church into the dead scene, you're up on stage, you're playing with Jerry, you look out in the crowd and you see that crowd.
Yeah.
What did you think right off the bat, looking at the Deadheads dancing and grooving, like, twirling and all of that? Did that blow your mind? I mean, were you like, holy, like, this is unbelievable. Look at this whole new scene.
Yeah. Going through the experience of getting with Jerry and the Deadheads. I mean, I played with Melvin, and that was different. It was rhythm and blues and stuff. But Jerry was a whole new experience, opening up what I saw and what I heard. And first, to answer your question, yes, I'm looking at all these people that dance and they twirl. I've never seen twirls in my life. And some people just going around and round and round and round. How do you not fall? How do you not get dizzy? But they just going around. And that's, there are people that at the Warfield, we should call it Warfield home for us, that would be in a circle out there praying for Jerry and the band. They come to the show and there's like a circle of people that just, I don't know what you call it, that they're I don't know if they're dancing or they're just praying in a sense for, Jerry and the good wish of the will of the band. There's so many things that went on there. But what I had to learn with the Jerry Garcia band is that I used to get upset. Coming from R&B and the church music, you dot your I's and you cross your T's. And what I mean, here comes an accent, right? And it's coming up, harder it comes, jump, da, and everybody hit it tight and right on the one, and it's just big. This band, the Jerry Garcia band, would mess up simple things. And I used to be mad over it, like, come on, guys, look at all these people out here, and you guys are playing out, I couldn't understand that to save my life. How they can get away with it.
Meanwhile, the crowd's loving every mistake.
They love it. Jerry missed a word. Jerry miss a word or make a big mistake on the guitar. They just screaming and like. I didn't come from that. I didn't know anything about that. And so I had to learn it wasn't about how tight the music, it was a vibe. It was sharing something, again, from the heart. It was just, it wasn't nothing about how tight you were, how good you were, or how badass it was if you got in that zone right, And I used to walk out like, there would be a line of people when we walk out the auditorium night and want to say hi or whatever. And there would be people saying like, Melvin, did you feel it? The third verse, the second, they were exactly when, did you feel it go over the crowd? And I was saying, I didn't know what he's talking about, but something went over the whole room and they all got that moment. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It happens in church.
It does. You're right. I just didn't know it happened there.
Exactly. When I first saw it happen, it was amazing because I wasn't on stage,
Right.
Went to the very first show of Grateful Dead 50. Bill Kreutzmann flew me out. It was mystical, and I was like,
"Yeah, that was unbelievable."
This is like a white people's black church. And then when the thing all happens, and you see it like everybody, and even the night I was there, the rainbow came out, and I looked at my wife, like, okay. And the first time I saw the Grateful Dead, the only time I saw Jerry, it had to be 92 or 90. I think it was 92. We played in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I remember I wasn't even as focused on the band. I was more focused on the crowd. I was in the crowd, like on the floor, like in the middle of this whole thing, and it felt really good and warm. And during drums, it was so hot, man. We were just sweating outside in Vegas, And then during drums and space, Mickey hits a beat, and thunder claps.
Yeah.
It starts raining like buckets all of a sudden, and I was just every time I go see these guys, like something.
You're making sure it's raining on everyone else.
It was like, and so I was like, man, you just can't deny that stuff.
No,
when it happens.
You can't deny it. You can't deny it.
Cannot.
That's what keeps us coming back all the time for more and more and more. And these moments are singular, and you chase them, and it's the best.
Yeah, that's what keeps people coming back to church too, right?
That's when I learned about the improvising and not having a set show. Why, from night to night, we played this last night, but it's either fast or dragging, or so it's just totally a different night, and they're chasing. Which was their favorite night, because it's never the same. We just played this. We opened up with this last night. Why is this dragging? But it was a vibe. It was a feel that was right for that night, and it worked. And so I learned more playing with the Jerry Garcia band than I ever had. I've had a gospel record label. I've had records in the top 10 artists in the top 10 charts, gospel producing. For a long time, but when I got with Jerry, it was a new experience with the music world. I didn't understand it. I had to go learn what this is. What is this? And now that I know, it's like I really don't want to play anything else but this now. I did lifetimes of doing this.
Well, then everybody said he was a channel, right? Like he would just channel all this music through. And a lot of people say that, and even I think he said that the Jerry band, it was the songs that it's the band that he kind of like, that's what he thought a band should be. Like the covers that you guys did were the songs that he liked to cover. The Dead was more of a democracy when it came to, they had to play the songs that Mickey wanted to play and Phil wanted to play. The Jerry band was, and you could just hear and see how much fun he was having.
He loved the Jerry Garcia band. When we got to the final members that was there for quite some time, he said many times, "This is the band I wanted. This is the band I've always wanted." Not that the other musicians and other bands wasn't great, but obviously when we all got together, Jackie and Glory, myself, started Dave Kemper and John Kahn, we were there for a long time. And And I get it. I get it now.
It's
And
like
even
great
what I
food,
brought to the band, because it was funny. Merle was there just before me.
Yep.
And when they hired me, the first thing I wanted to do was start listening to, okay, let me listen to what Merle did on these songs. No, that was a big no. Because had I listened to what Merle had played, I would have started right there playing what Merle played, because I'd figured that's their comfort zone. That's what they've been hearing. They didn't want that. They would not let me listen to tracks with Merle. They wanted me to explore what I heard in the song. And a lot of songs I didn't know what I heard, so I just played. And Jerry said that's what he's looking for. That's what I brought to the table is what he was looking for. So, rumor goes on, and it worked out pretty good,
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I think it worked out pretty good. You're an unbelievable talent, and you're an unbelievable person to talk to, man. And it's just, this is such an honor, really.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on and blessing us with this. It's such a hard time everybody's going through.
Yes.
And I know I had a hard morning this morning, really hard. And I feel so much better right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, totally, man. I might just call you every now and then and I want you to say what leaves the heart, reaches the heart in my voicemail, and I'll just listen to that.
That's what I think our music experience should be. People are coming, I say, like the church. Folks come to church because they've had a bad week, a hard week, and they needed help. They needed to hear the word. They need to hear a good choir. They need their spirit lifted. And these fans that come to hear this music, the same thing. It's the same thing. It's church. And they're coming in for their favorite song, whatever it may be. And I can tell because sometimes they're just people crying. They're just crying, and I used to say, why are they crying? But I get it now, Maybe sisters and brothers just touch somebody's heart because maybe they lost a loved one. And we talk about the promised land. There's, everybody identify with different songs. And when they hear the song, they're either dancing wild, they're grooving, or they're crying, or they're just sitting there looking at you like, this is so sacred. And I get it all now. And so that's what we should bring to them, an experience, not just come play a bunch of bubblegum music. Experience. They should go away with their hearts filled of love of the concert they just heard.
Yeah.
That's what
I see people crying
thing.
like that. I do. First thing I think of is people breaking down and crying in black church. Just
yeah.
Let it out. They come over and they hug you, put their arm around you. Go ahead, let it out, man.
Let it out now.
It is a sacred thing. What is this connection with Jerry and gospel? Because I noticed I was learning a bunch of gospel tunes to play with you guys. And he obviously that caught his ear when he first heard you. Well, I don't know what his background is with that, really.
Jerry was very spiritual inside. I don't know, maybe he fought it, ran from it, but didn't feel qualified. Jerry knew the Bible. I used to be at Jerry's house, and that's when Dr. Scott used to come on TV. You remember Dr. Scott, a minister, and he would talk some weird stuff sometimes, but Jerry would interpret it. And Jerry knew the Bible inside and out. Jerry listened to Clara Ward. He listened to the Roberta Martin singers because when he would play me gospel, it was old-timey gospel.
Right to
the
the
Five
source.
Blind Boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The old twins. And he'd say, oh, I love this song here. And I knew it. I knew it from, coming out of gospel. I'm saying, what does he know about these songs? He knew. I mean, he picked and chose what would be appropriate to perform on his stage. But he had a gospel history that unbelievable. What he knew, what he believed in, he just didn't share that on stage necessarily in public and in speech, because he just kind of felt like, same thing with political. Jerry had said, oh, I'm voting for this president. What the magnitude, what would go out to his people? But he stayed out of that arena.
it seems like with Jerry too, that was no matter what genre it was, whether it was bluegrass, he wanted to go right to the source and learn like Bill Monroe. And if it was, the blues, he wanted to go right to the source, or the psychedelic thing. And it seemed like he was not concerned with anything other than like pure, like where the water dripped from the rock, and that's the thing that seemed so amazing about him, was how good he was at so many different styles.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And it takes great players to be able to navigate all that,
No ego.
That's why you made it to the spot that you did. It's like people find their spot they're supposed to be in, because you were able to navigate all those different things and integrate
there was
them all.
A lot of gospel in my playing, and I go back to when he said he heard me in San Diego, and I often wonder why he asked who was on the organ with Elvin Bishop. It was a lot, because like I said, my gospel roots shine through my playing. I can give you the rock and the other elements, but it's it's coming through. And he heard that, and that was the source that even though I never knew I'd be with him one day, he reminded me. That day. Wow. There's a connection somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He heard it from listening to all that old stuff.
Yeah.
You could hear this guy knows that old stuff.
Yeah.
He said that guy really likes Billy Preston. From a fan, and Oteil, I have to say that, like, I think that this is probably going to happen a lot during this podcast. But to tell both of you, and Melvin, you said it, watching fans have that moment and how special it is. I could tell you that whether it's getting off the exit ramp heading into the parking lot and seeing the other fans and seeing the fanfare and the park, everybody getting ready to go in. It's like being a little kid, and in the distance you see your friends playing, and all you want to do is, like, your body just starts running towards them. You know what I mean? That feeling of like, I can't wait to be with my people and my friends. And we're all there and we're all anticipating it. And then you walk in the door, and when the house lights go down and the stage lights come up, there's just this millisecond of like,
you're killing me right now.
And that's the moment. That's just, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. I mean, I see it every night. I know, dude. I'm sorry. Turn the lights off in the back. But that moment for all of us is just this collective, we leave it all there and you guys give it to us. And it's just, it's the most indescribably beautiful moment of my entire existence. And it's why I keep going back to shows. And it's why I just can't thank both of you. This is why, like to be here talking with the two of you together now, it's just thank you a million times over to both of you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now that's enough of the sappy shit. All right. I'm sorry. Okay.
I feel the same way, dude. I really do.
It's just a thing that you guys provide that it really fills, like you said, it fills us up. And
well, it fills us up too from the audience, and that's the other thing. Like, I always go back to it, like to Black Church. It's such an interactive thing. Like without the audience, the congregation, without the interaction, and the whole wave doesn't happen. So we're getting as much. Like it's like the crowd has put the gas nozzle in the tank and it's filling us up. And we're just like, can we get this thing to fill up faster? And we get as much from it as the audience.
Oh, man. Well, I can't wait till we can do it again soon. I can't wait till we can do it.
It'll be soon. Yeah.
Melvin, where can listeners find and support you, and anything that you'd like to plug, or anything that anybody can go check out or keep an eye on for the future?
Well, I don't know when new things will be, whether it's a show or recording that I'm going to put out. I do have a website. I do have publicists. So when I'm done with something, I'm sure they will get it out there with the fans. I do, website, jgbband.com is a good place. I have Instagram, and like I said, publicists and all that stuff that will get out what I'm going to release. I'm going to do some things for Nugs. And I'm coming out of a fog where the music is back.
Good.
And I'm down in my studio creating now. So once I put enough together, it's a little difficult because I'm used to a band in the room. My drum over here, bass player over here, guitar player over here, and we play together. Now it's all internet. I'm sending this to my drummer, and he's trying to play what he thinks I want, and send it then to the bass player. It's all Pro Tools and things like that, and it's not the way. I'm old school. I'm just old school, and it's not how I prefer to do it. So it's more of a challenge, but signs of the time. So I just have to do it that way. So, but I am working now, and
Good.
I'm coming up with some stuff that I think folks are going to realize, wow, this was well worth waiting for. Because I try not to do anything just average. It's just okay. It's got to do something to me first, and I'm tough. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we've taken more than enough of your day, but
okay.
Thank you so much. And
thanks for having me, Otil. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh,
and can't wait to do it again.
Oh man, save me a track on one of them records. If I do stuff, I want to get in on that.
You got it, man. Your name is written on a couple things already.
All right,
I can play a pretty decent acoustic guitar too, Melvin. So if you need anything, if you need just regular chords, I'm your guy.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I'm gonna get off here. I just wrote a song for. It's actually the lead instrument is acoustic guitar. Beautiful little song, and so I play acoustic guitar on synthesizer.
Oh.
But it sounds like a guitar. You have to listen to it and say, "Oh, that ain't guitar." So it'll take a minute to realize,
Yeah.
But it's a pretty little song, short song, of 2.5 minutes, just like, oh man, so beautiful. And I'm getting ready to put orchestration around the guitar to be one of the songs I'm going to release, and however I'm going to release this thing. So I'm fired up now. I am really.
Yeah, we did it. Awesome.
You got me fired up.
I know.
Thank
right.
you so much, man.
Everyone, thanks so much for listening, and tune in next time for another episode of Comes the Time. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless y'all.